Thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica Podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif, an urban planner, and you're more than welcome to join my big journey of exploring the making of smarter and more livable cities. Please don't forget to follow Urbanistica on the different social media platforms, and also let's connect on LinkedIn. Big thanks to Urbanistica podcast partner AFRY. AFRY is an international engineering and design company providing sustainable solutions in the fields of energy, industry, and infrastructure. Are you ready for a new episode? Let's go for it. Hello and welcome to a new episode from Urbanistica Podcast. Today we have a new episode and we have a great storyteller. I have the pleasure to welcome you, Hélène, to Urbanistica Podcast. Hello and welcome.
Hello, thank you for inviting me.
How are you doing?
Not bad, like a Friday.
Yeah?
Very busy week, but all good.
A busy week or a busy month?
A busy year.
Is it a lot of things to work now, like projects to deliver and so on?
Yes, I mean, I'm working for an organization who is trying to help city to accelerate climate action. You can imagine that there is a lot, and the agenda is very complex and busy. So yes, a lot.
Yeah, and when are you going to have a summer vacation? Is it usually August, July?
August on my
August.
side.
Okay.
Yeah.
So two more months to go.
2 more months to go.
Yeah.
So a lot of things already.
Yeah. So in this episode, it's like 3 parts. First part about the projects, organization that you work with. Second part about you, and the third part is more like a closing and messages to listeners. So let's start with the first part about C40 cities. So tell us about the organization, more about the background, the mission, the team.
Yeah. So C40 is an NGO. Is an NGO that has been created 20 years ago, approximately, and it's the objective was really for mayors to exchange together on how they could accelerate their climate action. That's how this started. Right? The initial mayor was Mayor Ken Livingstone, the mayor of London. It was at this period we had the COP that was led by the national government was struggling to find some agreement, to progress. And so mayors to say, okay, how we are part of this discussion, how we are doing our job in this agenda. And they basically share first discussion about what each of them were doing. And then they decided to create this organization to progress together. At the beginning, there were 20 mayors. So
from Europe?
No, from all over the world.
Okay.
Then 40, and that's why it's called C40. But now we are approximately 96 cities and mayors. Mostly, I mean, all the ideas large cities who are working together. There is quite a lot of other cities who would like to join the network, but what has been decided is to focus on these 100 cities that are very large, in the idea of really providing a deep support to these 100 cities so they can make a difference. They can really make an impact, a transformation in their cities, and hopefully they can inspire other cities. So we are helping the cities, the mayor, the technical level, in all of the different sectors that are related to climate change. So quite a lot. And we are very strong connection with the cities. But then we have created a few platform and structure to really share all of the information, explain all of the process, all of the challenges cities have faced when implementing a specific project with the maximum of other cities. So we have, for example, a knowledge hub, which is really I really encourage to go. It's a very good platform that explain to any other cities in the world, you would like to implement this type of of project here, how you should do it, here's the
Mm.
challenge you may face and how you can address it. So this is really the philosophy of this organization.
Yeah. And Ellen, like you helping mayors and big cities and how to say is what do you call it? Mid-sized cities. Who is the team behind C40? Like what are the expertise that helping the cities?
So we are today approximately a little bit less than 500 people working for this organization that we call sometimes a little bit the UN of cities on climate change.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's
very
the
big, you know?
most important climate organization for
Mm.
cities
Mm.
today. So quite a lot of people who have different expertise working on the sectoral approach, building, food, waste,
Mm.
climate resilience, of course, but even the detail, extreme heat,
Yeah.
flooding. So all of these different topics, we have a dedicated experts
Mhm.
who are working with the, the technical and the political representative of the cities on this topic. We are also having a project on supporting cities to finance
Mhm.
their project, an advocacy team, a communication team, and we have regional teams who are
Okay.
really helping also to make sure that what we are working
Mm.
is clearly makes sense for
Yeah.
the local context and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, quite a lot of people working
Yeah,
in the.
it's very large team. I thought like how to say maybe maximum 100, but you're so many.
I mean, when I joined C40 7 years ago, we were less than 100.
Ah,
We have been expanding quite a lot
yeah.
uh, because, unfortunately, the topic
Yeah.
is very important,
Urgent.
and
Yeah.
but also because I think C40 really has been positioned as the main leading
Yeah.
organization of the topic. So we are now part of the lot of general negotiation.
Mm.
We know that
Mm.
COP, for example, there is in the COP now there is a
Yeah.
specific work with the cities, not only
Mm.
the the national government, and C40 is helping this type of negotiation to happen. So our role has really
Yeah.
grown in the
How
past
to say
years.
you took a very strong position and positioned the organization between the countries on different levels, especially the political and national and international level. So, like, you have a word.
Yeah, and I think our model, so we work on our side, we work only with cities, only with mayors
Yeah.
and city governments.
Mm.
But I think our position, the way we work is interesting because probably if I compare to COP, for example, or
Yeah.
to this type of, I think what we are doing is so the city who are part of C40, they don't pay for receiving their support. It's totally free. We
Okay.
have other. Um, I'm happy to explain how we are funded,
Yes,
but
I love to
so it's
hear.
a free support that we are providing to the city, but the city need to prove that they are committed and they are doing progress. So
Okay.
we have a leadership standard explaining
Mm.
what they need to do, which is mandatory, and
Okay.
and every year they need to report on their progress.
Ah.
And if they are not progressing enough, or if their commitment is we think are not ambitious
Mm.
enough,
Mm.
we propose them to leave and to let another cities to join. And I
Okay.
think it was interesting because it's also put a bit of pressure
Yeah.
on the cities to 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 progress.
Mm.
And at the same time, we have other program, especially we have what we call the accelerators, where pioneer city on a specific topic can
Mm.
commit and
Okay.
could identify like very ambitious targets
Mm.
and try also to pave the way for others. So we have these two approach, which is the minimum you need to do if you want to
Yeah.
be part of the organization
Mm.
and receive our support. But at the same time, we are also helping them to say, okay, on this topic, if you can lead the way
Yeah.
for others, you can show and make a big difference and everything. So that's really the two approach we are
Yeah.
having.
So if I'm how to say if I because you told me it's for free, like for cities to take your help, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I am not that ambitious. Like I receive help, but I don't implement. But then it's good that you say, okay, now you have to leave this because there are other cities who are like really willing to do something and do an impact.
Yes, yes, that's the idea. That's the idea to say we don't want, the support. we are working for the common good. We are an NGO. You don't need to pay and
Uh,
everything. Not a consultant, but what you need to do to receive
mm,
this consultant, it's we don't want to spend our time and energy and the money of the
yeah.
founders that are supporting us if you are not showing progress, if you
Mm,
are not committed, if this is
mm,
greenwashing and
mm,
other.
mm.
So we are working really closely and
Yeah.
in some way helping them to monitor their progress, to report their progress so they can continue. I don't think, to be honest, between us, I don't think they are progressing because they want to stay at C40. This is, but I think the idea is to we want to create these 100 cities
Yeah.
who paves the way, who shows this is possible
Mm,
to create a more uh, climate responsive
yeah.
urban future. So we are not interested in spending time on cities that are not in this
Mm.
mindset.
Exactly. And tell me, how is the financial aspect going? Like, who is paying your salaries?
So we C40 is funded by so we have co-founder who are supporting the general activities of
Yeah.
C40. So Bloomberg, for example, has been one of the
Mm,
pioneer founder at the
yeah.
very beginning of the organization. It's not the only one anymore. We
Mm,
have SIF, for example, and a few other. So these one are basically they provide quite important funding and they fund every activities, the
wow.
general activities of C40. Then we have quite a lot of programs that are more specific,
Mm,
where we are partnering with a lot of different founder who are
yeah.
supporting us on a specific topic, on a specific project, and everything. And we have quite a lot of different founder like that. We start to have quite a lot of national government funding as well,
Okay.
and other public entities. So it's both
Yeah.
private and public philanthropy or
Yeah.
funder.
Yeah. But if you want to do like an impact worldwide and so on, why you just increase the number of the team and take in more cities? Like, what is your take on that?
I think it's complicated. First, there is other organization. It's
Yeah.
C40 is not only organization.
Yeah.
There is other organization. I could mention ICLE or other who are working with smaller cities, a
Mm,
larger number of cities. I think the decisions that our mayors
mm,
made and was um, our board
yeah.
made was to say we want to provide a deep support. We just don't want to give just a little bit of
Mm,
expertise. We think that uh, to achieve what needs to be achieved,
yeah.
it's a lot
Mm,
for a city. It's a lot. And we think that we are more impactful
mm,
by providing this very deep support and really doing transformative action
yeah.
that could open the eyes, that could inspire
Mm,
others. So it's another approach, to be honest.
yeah.
We are not just, for example, we are not just doing advocacy or this type of thing. We are really providing deep support
Yeah.
for all of the different aspects of a project, on all of the different
Mm,
elements related to climate change. So, yeah, it's a lot.
it's a lot. Yeah. And now, as you becoming a larger organization, how is your relation with the like UN Habitat? And all other, how to say, international organizations.
I think these are partners, definitely
Okay.
partners. I think the goals are shared,
Mm,
and I think there is definitely space for for everyone that want to push this agenda that need a lot of support. So the first thing is that UN by nature is more, for example, national
yeah.
government. We work with national government in some way when we are part of the advocacy, are part of
Mm,
the interaction between cities and national government, but we don't. This is not at all our entry point. Our
okay.
really, we work for
Mm,
cities and for mayors.
mm,
So in that sense, working with UN and UN Habitat especially is very important because if you don't have the alignment between what national government
mm,
push and uh, and what cities push, local government push, I think we need everyone to go in the same direction if we want to accelerate action. So we work closely with them. We have several
mm,
programs that we are developing together, and we are partner. We constantly speak to each other, but this is different objective.
yeah.
This is probably no. This is probably the same objective but different pathway.
Yeah. So you are like, how to say, we need different actors on the different levels to collaborate together, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There is also, of course, for example, we help, for example, mayors and cities to work with the business. We think, of course, to transform a city, you need the business, the stakeholder to
Yeah.
be on board. It's
Yeah.
complicated for a city just to dictate what needs to be done and everything. But we don't, there is other organization who help business to
Yeah.
transform their model. Our role is more to help cities to better work with the business in their climate action. So in everything we are doing, our entry point is how to help cities and mayors to do better with the
Yeah.
national government, to do better with the business and other stakeholders. But it is through the lens of the mayors and cities.
The mayors. And working with so many cities and mayors, what are like the challenges that mostly stop them from progressing? Is it like budget or maybe brave leadership, knowledge, or if you just like give us some elements?
I mean, there is not one for sure, and I'm
Of
sure
course, yeah,
you
yeah.
know. I think for sure the financing, the
Financing, yeah.
I think now what I think our mayors, at least the mayor who are part of C40, they are convinced. There is no more discussion about
Yeah.
should be done.
Yeah.
They have all done. It was mandatory if they wanted to be part of C40. They have all delivered a climate action plan that are
Okay.
aligned with the Paris Agreement. So they know what they need to do. They have identified for each topic the action, the objective, where they need to go. So I don't think there is a lot of discussion about that. The real difficulty is how you bring this action and
Make it happen.
in implementation. So on these, of course, the financial resources are very important. So how we fund some of these action are, it's public resource mainly. So how we do that, how we help them. So that's the first part. I also think that there is a change of political leadership. Sometimes a lot of instability and everything that makes that a little bit complicated. You mentioned the courage. I think it's also important. Some of the decisions are facing resistance from the local community, so they need to be supported with what is a good narrative, what is a good political pathway for this type of progress. Some are better than others to do that. Some are courageous. Some have more political stability in their city, so it's easier. So the local context, the political local context is also very, very important. And so that would be the main element.
But do you see like between all cities? Do you see that they also collaborating with each other? No, or no? Everyone like is focusing on their own plan.
No, it's a very good question actually. I think, and that's the point that probably the most important strength of C40 is the collaboration between mayors. That's all everything started, collaboration between mayors, but the collaboration between cities is very powerful. I can give a few examples, but when there is a city with, for example, during COVID, during COVID, we created very quickly in the first days of the COVID a meeting or platform for to discuss together. The chair of this platform, of this network, was the mayor of Milan, Mayor Sala, who was experimenting very strong COVID in Milan. So after China, Milan became really the spot in Europe with a lot of cases happening. And he was dealing with the situation in his city, and at the same time he was discussing live with mayors from all over the world through C40 about what was happening. So explaining a little bit the case and everything, but also when after the shock, they start quickly, these mayors, to work together about what do we do, what action. And so the COVID lane, for example, the discussion, all of the transformation we have seen about we need to accelerate public space transformation because people are not allowed to, they cannot move in the same way. They are not, so a lot of these very quick transformations that we have seen in cities with the bike lane and everything. One mayor has done it and they share in this group, and the day after 10 mayors who are doing it. They were
Wow.
explaining, and this club is interesting also. I say club because it's closed, because they can also say, okay, we tried this, it didn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
They're also very transparent in their success, in their challenge,
Yeah.
and that's very important. And I also think there is a form of emulation,
Mhm.
nice competition
Okay.
between cities.
Healthy
Also,
competition.
see competition
Yeah.
that are about. So it's very impressive to see how
Mm.
mayors or even technical level are stealing good idea to each other, and how this is very powerful actually. Something that has been a success and that we are able to showcase. We organize a
Mm.
meeting, and the specialists of the city come and explain to the other specialists how, you know, day
Yeah.
after we are receiving calls and emails saying, okay, now I want to implement that. Can you help me?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's exactly how to start this discussion, because the solutions sometimes come from the cities
Exactly.
themselves, not only C40 lecturing or explaining. It's
Mm.
the cities who are pioneer on different elements who can, explain to
Yeah.
other how they should do it. And I think that's very powerful.
Yeah. So it's not only a vertical way of working, city, but no, it's also like horizontally between the cities as well, which is very efficient as well.
And I actually think it's even more the second part.
Mm.
It's really start as a form of we are here to create
Yeah.
this collaboration
Yeah.
of ambitious mayor,
Mm.
ambitious cities on their thing. Of course, we bring our own expertise, but
Mm.
the decision of the priority and everything is driven
Yeah.
by the mayor.
Yeah.
It is the mayor who decide what C40 priority will be. Where
Mm.
so this is an organization of mayors and city.
Yeah.
Before than an organization by itself who is helping cities.
Exactly. Now we like more merged together. So we talked about like the organization and the team and experts. We talked about mayors. How about people? Like, do you hear a lot that there are like a lot of climate deniers or people like not really agree with what their mayors want to do? You know, how is this situation like from what you experience?
So I think first it's mayors by nature, they are very attentive to what the inhabitants, the residents
Mm.
think first.
Okay.
I mean, at the democratic process.
Yeah.
And so we help a lot the mayors, not only on the technical
Mhm.
aspect of implementing a policy, but about how do you should involve the citizen in this, how do you should work. And
Mm.
it's important because we believe that, and I can give concrete example, that
Yes.
we need to empower people of being part of this
Mm.
transformation. This is not something that mayor can only deliver by himself or herself. It's really some of the transformation need to come from the citizen. So
Yeah.
we need to help the citizen to
Mm.
understand, to empower them by providing them the services they need for this transformation. And also, if we want
Mm.
these, we were discussing before about the political stability. If we want an ambitious mayor that has implemented positive ecological policies, one mandate is small, is not
Yeah.
very strong. So we need a form of continuity. So we also need to help in some way ambitious mayor to be reelected. So
Mm.
the is very important. And the last thing, and maybe an example that
Yeah.
just explain a little bit more my point just before.
Mm.
I think we know now that, in the past, the emissions that were calculating for a city or for a national government were the emission produced on the territory.
Okay.
So the emission from the building, the energy spent in the building of the city, the transport emission, and everything. This is very important, and most of the
Mm.
city and national government as well were focusing their effort on this. Now we know what we call the imported emission.
Okay.
We know that if we include in the calculation of
Mm.
the emission of especially the, the goods that the citizen will
Yeah.
consume. So my t-shirt, my
Yeah.
jean, all of the things we are building, most of these emissions
Mm.
are not produced on the territory. They are produced outside the territory. And this is what we call the imported emission or
Yeah.
consumption-based. And if you take a city that are very advanced, for example, let's take Copenhagen in Denmark, They are very strong commitment, strong
Mm.
progress. But if you add the consumption-based emission, their emissions are still growing.
Yeah.
So we have more and more Meyer who are also trying to include in their
Mm.
inventory of emission, in their climate action plan, these consumption-based emission. And to deliver on these, by nature, it's need to be done in partnership with the people.
With the people,
So
yeah.
so it's not any. I mean, it's not just about developing a new transport system, which a city can do. Of course, they need to do it with the citizen, but they can do it a little bit more
Mm.
by themselves. If you want the people to change the way they buy, to change the way they move and everything, you
Yeah.
need this more close partnership
Mm.
with the
Mm.
with the citizen, so they understand, so they are willing to change, and they have the capacity to change because they have access to the services, to the
Exactly.
amenities and needs for this transformation. A lot of people are aware now and would like to be part of this
Exactly.
transformation. Very complicated. It's
Mm.
cost. It's a lot of time, and so we need also. So because of this, the partnership with the citizen is becoming stronger and stronger between cities and citizens.
Citizens, yeah, because like in the end, they are, as you mentioned, they are big part of this transformation. Like changing their behavior will help a lot the city in achieving goals.
Yeah, and I would say the equity element of this
Mm.
is central, because it's you cannot, in French we say the end of the world vs the end of the day. you know, you know, all people also struggle sometimes, and
Yeah,
some
yeah.
struggle more than other in their daily life, and we need to make sure that the actions that are taken to accelerate
Mm.
climate action do not create,
Mm.
increase increase inequity. So this everything we are doing at C40, we assess the social impact of such policies.
Mm.
There is also a lot of things that can easily bring both
Yeah.
help to accelerate climate justice and social justice. So all of these elements is very important.
Mm. Mm. And like, where is the main office? How is the management of the team? Where are people working in the team? Because like I believe you have team members from different countries helping local cities and so on. Like, tell us more about geographical areas of people and the offices and so on.
So we have, so as I mentioned, we are almost 500. The
Yeah.
headquarters is in London,
Yeah.
uh, but we have large offices and entity in different countries. So we
Mm.
have offices in South Africa, in Beijing. We have an offices in Brazil. We have an offices in New York. So and the 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 people, the staff are really in different regions, which is very
Yeah.
important because we also need to have this form of make sure that we are, close to
Mm.
the reality of the cities
Yeah.
and the mayor. So that's why this form of decentralization of the organization is very important.
Mm. Mm. And recently, like I also saw you published the design guidance for the public space. So I it's very valuable, and that you have to say produce and share it with everyone, not only with the cities that you're working with. So I find it that this is very important as well, and I love like to take some time to talk about it. So tell us about the background of making this guidance.
So first, it is one document among many others that
Mm.
C40 is publishing, a little bit in the philosophy, the ideas that we were discussing before,
Yeah.
how we share. I'm sure you have seen there is a lot of case studies
Mm-hmm.
that are integrated in this guidance, that we are sharing what we are doing. So to help our own cities, the city in our network, but also for any other city. So on the public space, this was I think we have, and I'm the director of urban planning and urban design at C40. So I'm working with the director of urban planning of cities, with
Yeah.
designer, architect. That's more where I'm trying to make a difference. And sometimes public space are mostly are very approached in a sectoral way. So how we transform public space to increase active mobility, or public transport, how we transform public space for climate resilience, how we transform. Here, the objective was to say the public space is a little bit the shared living room of the citizens. That's where they meet. That's how they move. That's how they play. So we need to bring the different components and explain how a public space should be built, how the public space, what function it should host, and what ambition it should deliver. So we try in this guidance to bring the different brick of what make a good public space. I'm sure your designer or an urbanist by nature know how to do this cross-sectoral approach. But if you look the way the cities are organized, or it's sometimes working a little bit in silo. And our approach, especially on climate, to reduce emission from transport, to reduce emission from building, to increase resilience against urban. Sometimes we missed a little bit this holistic approach of this urban transformation. And because of the importance of the public space, I think it's UN Habitat actually who say it's 50%, should be 50% of livable cities. So you need these common good to do every element of what needs to do. So we were thinking it was important to explain that, to provide what we think are the best examples, what are the key principles, and so we developed this guidance for this matter.
Yeah, and about like the key principles, would you like to mention which are these principles, like briefly?
I mean, we organize the guidance around three main, and I mentioned them before: how it is built, what are the functions, and what they should promote. That was the three main ideas. And then there is 10 main principles. I'm not going to list them all, but for example, the idea of the complete public space, like the social function of the public space, is very important. How public space should be adaptable and should host different function, and maybe it could be a little bit flexible. We try to provide an example on this. Of course, the mobility elements, how this should promote low carbon mobility, active mobility especially, and how do you design well the climate resilience elements, how a public space should be well designed to be able to face heavy rain that we know that is going to become stronger and stronger in the coming years, urban heat. So how a well-designed public space could also contribute to reduce urban heat island effect. So all of these different elements in what type of materials you should use to build your public space. If you want to reduce embodied emission, if you want to also create a good public space. So all of these elements with around 10 different principles.
Yeah. And I will put also the link so listeners can also like download the PDF and read the guidance, because it's very good, very clear, and also good with different cases.
Exactly.
Because like theories will be theories until we implement. So I find it very useful that there are like real cases about these principles and so on. And like, because in the podcast we ask what should we do and what should we work with and so on. What should we stop doing when it comes to urban design and public spaces?
I think if I will speak about urban design and urban planning.
Okay.
I think we know that 100 years ago, when cars has been introduced to cities, this has totally transformed the way we were planning our city, the way we were designing our public space. It has not only transformed the public space, because the main objective of the public space design was to increase mobility, to make more space for cars and everything. So it has totally transformed the way we were reducing space for nature, space for the social functions that are in the public space, which I believe is very, very important. And it also totally destructured the overall organization of the city. People didn't need anymore to have direct access to amenities, to services, because they could jump on their car and cross the city with their car. So instead of having this organic organization of the cities where people could find close to where they live the different functions they needed, we basically destructure the city with residential area separated from business district, separated from commercial area, and all of them connected by transport systems that were mainly car oriented.
Yeah.
So it has changed the public space, the design, and it has totally changed also the overall planning organization of the cities. This has been so developed in early 20th century. This has been explained by urbanists, Le Corbusier, and in the Charter of Athens in the I think it's 1931. But then progressively we saw the negative impact of this transformation. We start to understand people in terms of air pollution that was coming with that, in terms of increase of GHG emissions that was coming with this model. Not only GHG emission from transport, which is evident, but also because we were developing an extension of the city, urban sprawl. We increase the size of our house. So we didn't have any more shared walls because we have individual house, and all of these increase the energy used in the building. So it increases the energy in the transport, the energy in the building, and we were consuming natural land that was sequestrating emission. So increased pollution, increased GHG emission, increase reduce biodiversity, consume natural land. So not that's environmental part, but if you look, this was also not really improve the quality of life of the people, because we increase the distance, so we had longer commute. The idea of this new technology was to make people move faster, but at the end it increased the commuting. It's also create a form of segregation and create also some neighborhood that were lacking of basic amenity and dormitory, a little bit neighborhood. So in the end of the days, there were more and more critiques around this model. And you have urbanists like Jane Jacob, for example, in the 60s, who very quickly say we need to come back to these more organic cities, where people can find next to where there is a different amenities, where public space plays its role of living room, plays its role of the social function, a place where they can meet, they can play, and other Gjangel later in the from Denmark also explained the importance of the public space for the livability of the city. So we had progressively, and I think there is nothing new here. I think the concept of 15-minute city, for example, that exploded after the COVID, there is nothing new here. But the big challenge is to mainstream. It's to make it happen, to kill, I would say, this bad modernist urban planist and urban planning model, and to replace it by a more human-centric, nature-centric urban planning model. And I think we know what needs to be done, but it's not. Yeah, it still needs to be. It's needed to be mainstream, I would say.
But it was very. You walk us through the recent 100 years of planning and why cities end up like this, and it's mostly because we were looking at the car is the heart and center of our urban planning and design. And now you saw a lot of new theories and concepts and strategies, like the 15-minute cities or 1-minute city here in Stockholm, let's say. How long time you think we're going to change this?
Again, I really don't. If you read Jane Jacob in her book from 60s, the life and death of North American cities, of American cities, it's really explained the 15-minute city word by word. So it's not a new concept. I think it is important to say it, and it's not a European concept, because I think it's and I want to say it because that's one of the critiques. It has become very popular First, because Paris endorsed this concept in the political campaign of
Yeah.
Anne Hidalgo, the mayor of Paris, explaining her vision
Mm.
for Paris as a 15-minute city, and also the COVID. The COVID, because people were stuck in their own neighborhood,
Yeah.
they saw the inequality
Mm.
of the quality of life between two neighborhoods. Some were already
Mm.
15-minute cities. Some already had these amenities, green space that make a city livable, and some were really deprived of these key elements.
Mm.
So the idea of saying we need to also bring all of these amenities to everyone and not only to the central and wealthy
Yeah.
neighborhood came strongly, but it's not new. What is to answer your question? So it has been around since a long time, and I
Mm.
think it's coming progressively. There
Yeah.
was some momentum. I think the COVID has been a momentum
Mm.
on which we need to build. I
Yeah.
really believe. But we are seeing progress. If I take the example of Portland, for example, in North America, they just set a boundary, a growth boundary around the metropolitan area, so no more urban growth.
Okay.
They are totally transforming their urban planning policies
Mm.
to try to reverse the single family housing model, to try to develop a form of gentle
Yeah.
densification and diversification of the neighborhood
Mm.
to try to create more polycentric cities with even small neighborhood center with a few amenities, a main street. So
Mm.
this is happening,
Yeah.
but there is still a lot of market-driven development of the cities that
Mm.
is also powerful and is perpetuating this bad urban planning model. So I think there is progress. To be honest, there is quite a lot of progress happening, but yeah, we need to push.
Accelerate. Yeah. Yeah.
We need to accelerate.
Mm. So it is happening. Like we are on the right direction now, and things are happening. Maybe not in the same speed as we wish, but this is the reality. So this is about yeah.
No, I just say I'm an optimistic, and I try to believe this is happening. I still think like if you look 30, 40 years ago,
Yeah.
we're really in the period where this urbanism were exploding everywhere in
Exactly.
every region and everything. Now it's still happening,
Shifting, but
but there is a shift. There is
yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
a form of new model that 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 is replacing
Exactly.
the urbanism.
It has a lot to do with the political layer, and also then the practitioners who are actually sitting on the positions of the technique with the planning and design. So Elaine, this is about the existing cities. I see, and you see also, like in every decades there are like a new city building from scratch. Then we have also cities on Mars and so on. What do you think, like on your opinion? Is it good to build this kind of new cities from scratch, or should we focus on existing? What is your take about this topic?
I think there is a I think we need to make a difference
Mm?
between the situation.
Yeah.
Global North, globally, the growth, the
Mm.
population, the urban population growth is not happening anymore. If you look Italy, for example, they are losing
Mm.
population. So I think these cities that are not facing an important population growth,
Mm.
they should definitely stop urban sprawl.
Okay.
They should definitely stop greenfield development.
Mm.
They should focus on regenerative
Mm.
urbanism, and in French we will say construire la ville sur la ville, build the city on the city,
Yeah.
transform the city. And I think that's exactly increase livability, increase with gentle density where there is room for it. That's where, of course, there is also region. If you take Southwest Asia, if you take Sub-Saharan
Mm.
Africa, where the population growth
Yeah.
is tremendous,
Mm.
and you cannot say to this city, oh, you need to do the same
No.
as, of course. So that would be totally unfair. So, but what we need to discuss and where they need to make sure they are not doing the same mistake that has been made in other region, and they are basically developing first an urban extension that is that is climate prepared, because we know, for example, in global south cities, there is 90% of the urban extension that is happening in or near climate risk area.
Wow.
So flooding. So we need to help them to get all of these data, and most of the cities are start to have, and to make sure that they are prepared. But not only the existing data to understand how the climate risk will increase and how they should expand their cities or even restructure their cities, considering the flood risks, the landslide risk we have seen this week, actually, both in Brazil, in other parts of the world, like concrete things. And then also to make sure they are creating a model of cities that is polycentric, that has a medium densities, that creates this type of mixed use, complete neighborhood everywhere rather than a single purpose neighborhood. So all of these model. But I think it's a different approach and a different reality that we need to consider. Then, if I come back, maybe there is also and that's where the national level also is important. There was a lot of focus in the past on metropole. Like we wanted strong metropole to a bit of competing also between London and Paris. For example, I don't think it's and it has in some way push a little bit a form of over urbanization of the existing areas and everything, while other existing cities were losing inhabitants, I think a form of comeback to also reinvestment in the secondary cities, but not to promote urban sprawl, but to
cities on cities,
exactly, cities on cities when it's possible. And again, there is some part of the world, but when it's possible. And I think the new way, the flexible working pattern, all of these things could also help to revitalize these existing cities that were a little bit, less attractive in the past, while, metropolitan area were growing and growing. I think that's where a form of vision of the development of a nation or something is also very important.
So it's more about if the city is needed to expand, then maybe thinking about like expanding. But in case cities are losing a population somehow, or a lot of people moving, or so maybe we shouldn't like really start to take more land, focus on what we have. It's a yeah. And what do you think about like cities on Mars?
I think let's get there first. To be honest, I think we need to be very careful with the bad false good idea. Let's see what I mean. I think there is no magic trick here. I don't think we will fight climate change with fantastic technology who are going to save us, or a totally revolutionary urban model. I think there is a few people who are thinking of this right now, and I don't think this is a way. I think we know what needs to be done. We have a vision. We should, happy to try to summarize, but we have a vision of what needs to be done. What is a sustainable and thriving urban model? And this is the one we should focus our effort to implement it in the reality, rather than trying to come with a crazy idea that is presented in a form of revolutionary urban model. But I don't believe this is, especially because we need to focus on the existing urban area. So I don't think this is a model we should follow.
So it's better to be realistic and focus on what we have, instead of like maybe making some kind of technology that we think is gonna save entire planet and every single city, right?
I really believe the technology can help. I don't at all. I think they can help to all of the data they can provide to inform the decision. I was mentioning, for example, on climate resilience, is definitely we need every decision making to be led, also to be informed by the data and everything. I think this is super interesting. I think there is new technology and product that can definitely help us to progress. For example, we need to, I was mentioning before, we need to see how we can transform existing building rather than building new. I think that's also a big challenge. But today, it costs much more. So how do you, if there is a form of process or technology, you could help to make these less expensive, to make these maybe quicker, and all of this discussion is interesting, and we need the private sector to come. They are the creative one most of the time, but I don't think. But this should be led by solutions that has been established by experts.
Okay.
By the scientists to say, okay, today on urban planning, we have an idea about the importance of bringing back permeable soil, bringing back green space, stopping urban sprawl, or developing a model of all of these elements. And I think if we move away from this vision, we will never be able to consolidate a good model. Instead, we will be trying things and a little bit pushing our own market model and everything, and we will forget to focus on what we know work and what we hope is could be the new mainstream urban model.
As you mentioned, like we know the principles or the key element in transforming cities, like what is a sustainable city and what do we need to focus on. So we can work on this and focus on this, no? Like, of course, like parallel with that, developing the technology that can serve us in remaking cities in a good way, in a sustainable way. But it's not, how to say, it's not something new. We already know what is the problem and how can we solve it somehow.
I think so. I think I mean, it would be a little bit pretentious to say we know it, but I feel we have a good idea of the transformations that needs to be done, but they are not easy to do.
Oh, yeah, of course.
They are complicated.
It's a big scale.
Resistance. They need public resistance. They need finance. They need,
resources.
Resources. And so let's focus a little bit on energy on this, and let's work with the creative mind, the business, to achieve together this goal, rather than having a form of separate model or things that are being developed and on which it's going to be complicated to build into mainstream.
Yeah. And Hélène, what do you as a C40, like the organization C40 cities, what do you need as a help from cities to you? Like you are helping cities, but like what do you want back? How can we contribute to C40 cities?
You mean city?
Yeah, let's say as cities.
So I think it's our role is to help cities.
Exact.
So I don't think I mean, of course, what engage cities that are keen to share their success, their challenge, cities that are proactive in their transformation and sharing. This is very positive for our network, but I don't think we are waiting anything from the city. They don't work to make C40. They do their transformation because they are convinced that needs to be done, and it's on us to bring the maximum of support we can. Then there is actors, there is business, philanthropy that can help this transformation. That can and that's more with them. So they can help the city through us. They can help the city. But I don't think we are waiting anything from the cities. That being said, again, as I was mentioning at the beginning, if they are not proactive, if they are not doing the transformation, progressing, we are not interested in working with them.
What challenges you face working with different cities, like as an organization?
I think it's very different from one cities to another. They don't have at all the same context, the same objective. That was the importance of helping cities to do their own climate action plan.
Customize.
customized to their own need, to the reality of their challenge, to the reality of how they produce emission. It's not the same. They don't have the same inventory of emission from one city to another, to have the typology of the city. So I think it's very important, and which that make our work more interesting, but also more complicated, to make sure we, at the same time, we are able to establish shared objective, shared goal, an idea of what are the good principles to implement, but then in the way you implement it, recognize that we need to go in the detail and we need to go to the specificities of the cities. Otherwise, it doesn't make really sense for them and everything. So this is one of the complication.
Wow, it's a lot of work, a lot of stakeholders, and a lot of people, a lot of knowledge in this organization. Um, I'm really happy that you shared with us, like, I would say, stories behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for inviting me again.
Yeah. Before we move to the next part of this episode, what is going to happen? Like, if we open the agenda and calendar of C40 cities, like to the end of 2024, is any interesting things coming out?
There is a lot of things, to be honest. I feel maybe there is one thing I would say, which is not 2024, but
Later.
2025. Into every 2-3 years, we have what we call the Mayor Summit, where mayors all come together and really, work together for several days about their commitment, try to inspire each other, but really, and that's going to happen in the summer 2025. So this is going to be a very important moment, a little bit the COP of cities. That's really, so that's a very key moment. But then before we will be part of the COP negotiation in December, we have a lot of very concrete projects that are happening every day, every week on the ground in every city. So I could go in detail, but this
a lot of things. Yeah. And also, like, shout out to the communication team taking care of the homepage with a very good, like, cases, knowledge, and so on. So there is a lot to read and learn from the homepage.
Yeah, and I really encourage you to go to the C40 Knowledge Hub, which is not the C40 website. The C40 website is more explaining what we are doing and everything. The C40 Knowledge Hub is really a place where you can very good case studies, detailed information about everything that cities are doing on climate change and doing, and the best example.
Yeah. I think I was aiming for like this knowledge hub. So it's it's good that you mentioned it. So Hélène, so this was the part of like C40 and project that you work with. In the podcast, we explore also people behind all these projects and so on. So now it's more about you. Take us back in time and tell us about you, where you grew up, how was your childhood, like walk us through your journey.
So I woke up in the suburb of Paris. I grew up, in the suburb of you should look up this. I grew up in the suburb of Paris, exactly in. It's interesting actually because I grew up in what we call in France les villes nouvelles, like the new city, which was cities who has been typically designed in the 70s, like the dormitory cities that in the east part of Paris. And at the same time, the national government was developing what we call La Défense, which is a business district of the Paris, and basically create the city where I lived, where I grew up, 20 kilometers from Paris, and they create public transport plus an highway. And I saw my parents every day, like moving from the east part of Paris to go to the west. So I grew up exactly in this type of single family city and everything. I mean, I had a nice childhood in terms of for children. There is nothing problematic here. That being said, a lot of time for my parents, to be honest, so a lot of time lost with them and everything. So I grew up here all my childhood, and then I did some engineering study, and then in Paris, in Lyon, also a little bit in another city in France. And then after that, I work. My first job was in London. I worked in Europe on mostly on environmental analysis,
Yeah.
evaluation of urban project. I didn't stay long. At that time, my English was even worse than today. Then I moved. I became a public servant for the city of Paris. So I work in the architecture department of the city
Okay.
of Paris, leading quite a lot of public equipment construction project and or transformation, this type of thing.
Yeah.
Then I moved to the urban planning agency of the city, which is not a department of the city; it's more a prospective agency about the vision of the Greater Paris
Yeah.
transformation, and I learned a lot there. And then I worked more for the political side. So in the for the previous mayor of Paris and the deputy mayor at that time, in terms of Greater Paris, urban planning, this type of work. Then for the actual mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo. And then I moved to New York and I work at C40. I stopped my work at C40 in New York for 4 years, and then I moved back to Paris, but still at C40, and I progressed quite a lot within C40 to become now the director of urban planning and urban design with a very, very good team
Yeah.
of people working with me.
What a journey. And Hélène, what are you passionate about? What is your passion?
You mean in the work I'm doing?
Yeah, like in work and life.
That's a good question. I actually quite like the work I'm doing. To be honest, I put a lot of time and energy, probably too much sometimes.
Why?
But I mean, because I think we are working for the good. We are working for some things that are positive, transformative. So you don't, I'm not doing it for the money. I could make much more money somewhere else, but I'm quite happy of what I'm doing. So I think that's a lot of my passion. Then I'm mother of 3 children. So to be honest,
Sweet.
there is not a lot of time of family and work. It's a
Yeah.
little the reality of my life, but all very positive.
Yeah. How old are your children? Like old or young? Young.
Both. So I have my daughter is 18 now,
Yeah.
and my son is 16, and I have a little one. In French we call it the kids of love, the one that you you really wanted. He's my
the last and the little one we say also. Um, Tell me, when people are passionate about what they work with, as you mentioned, sometimes it takes part of their like private life as well. How do you keep your work life balance? Like, how is it for you?
I think first, I think what is interesting, like my profession influence a lot also
Life.
my personal life.
Yeah.
Okay, especially with my partner is also, we are really also trying to change the way we live, to change also some of our habits, to in our small, capacity, trying to
Yeah.
make this transformation, change the way we consume. We are mentioning the way we eat, the travel we are doing. So all of these type of things are also alimenting quite a lot of our discussion and
Yeah.
our element. And then your question about the work-life balance is, I would say I have a very packed, busy life, which I like. And to be honest, if you don't do it, if you don't like, I think I like to have a very packed. But so I think what is important is to be able, when I am with my children or I'm really with them. I try
Yeah.
to avoid this type of things where your head is always somewhere else. And so that's really it's not easy, to be honest, but that's really what I'm trying to do. When I work, I'm trying to be 100% on what I'm doing
Yeah.
and to be focused, but at the same time, sometimes be able also to stop and to be with them and try to do the best I can to be a good
Yeah.
a good mother.
So trying to be, how to say, uh, trying to be present. If it's at work, then focus. It's work. If it like family, then focus. It is family.
Yeah.
Try to be there.
Yeah. And then, of course, I have a few things that I like. I like cinema, theater, this
Yeah,
type of things that when I have time, I'm happy
t-
to see a few,
experience. Yeah,
exactly, few culture, a little bit that feed me. I'm not very sport, so
cultural.
I'm not cultural
Yeah,
activities than sportive activities.
because now you're in a leading position, and a lot of people, especially how to say, let's say, young people in universities and so on, wondering how can we find our passion, what is the journey to have like this position, because I'm lecturing in university, and a lot of times I see like students have already a clear plan. I want to be in this position this year, and I want to be like the head of this office in that year, like exactly a fixed plan. But now I graduate and I see it's like life is not gonna work like this. So, and the key is like to develop your passion. So two questions. First one, how did you find your passion? And then what is your comment about having like a super fixed plan about what company, what position, which city, and so on?
I mean, if I take my own experience,
Yeah.
I would have never. I mean, everything has been totally unpredictable. I, to be honest, I was an engineer, so more,
Mm,
you know, trained to become engineer, doing some expertise,
mm.
engineering work and everything. I've never done that, like never. I, I mean, maybe 2 years, maybe
Yeah.
2 to 3 years when I was working in Europe, and then I changed. I would start working in urbanism, which I was not no trained for this, but I learned a lot by
Mm,
myself. You meet people, there is opportunity. I changed a lot. I did technical work, political work. I worked for the private company,
mm.
for a city, for an NGO. I think for me, I don't think it's a model necessarily. I think some people may have a more um, constant or professional life, but for me, this change has been very inspiring.
Yeah.
And I have been lucky. I have to say, I've been
Mm.
lucky with people I met and opportunities that came to me. So I think you need to be a little bit open-minded. I think it's good. I
Yeah.
think what is important is good to know what you want to do, but,
Mm,
but just to let the change, happen possible. Let let these open. So when you are doing something, do it.
mm.
I work quite a lot. I'm someone who invests not just my time and energy, but my head.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to try to. Sometime in the work there is a lot of administrative tasks and
Mm.
things. It's very important to keep a bit of time to think
Yeah.
about the vision, what you
Mm,
try to push. So to have a form of intelligent approach of what you are doing. I
mm.
think it's very important. And when you are doing it, be committed, but then be open to change and
Yeah.
to change quite a lot more than what you think, and to embrace a new
Mm,
approach, a new
mm.
city, a new position. I think, at least for me, it has been a very good,
Yeah.
very good path.
Yeah. So it's good to be flexible and open for opportunities as far as like what you love to work with and what change you want to make. But always good to have like door open. So maybe the opportunity will knock on your door and just like you can take it instead of saying no and you go blind and say no, I just want this. And then maybe you miss a lot of opportunities.
No, I mean, experimenting new things, I think is super important. I didn't mention it. I don't mention it in my professional life because it was too short. But when I came back from London after working for Europe
Mm.
and before starting to work with the city, there was I had a little problem with the city. They could not hire me now. And so I had almost 8 months. I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
And I become a teacher, a math teacher for middle school
Yeah.
in the suburb of Paris. And it was a fantastic experience. I don't know if I would be ready to do that all my life,
No.
but it really has been a fantastic experience. I
Mm.
could have gone on holiday for 8 months, but I don't know. I had this opportunity, and it was actually very challenging, to
Mhm.
be honest, but I learned a lot. So I think, at least for me, this type of experimenting, all
Yeah.
those things, you learn a lot of things that
Mm.
even it seems to be disconnected to what you are doing, but it feeds you a lot, I feel.
Exactly. Yeah. I think maybe it's not connect like you say, okay, school and mayors or I don't know, cities, maybe there's not like a direct, but like the skills you gain is
Exactly.
the connected dots. Like
Yeah.
the communication, the pedagogy, the way of thinking, like the skills that you gain from different stations that helps you move further.
Yeah. I'm a strong believer on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And in the future, if you want to try another profession, nothing related to cities or climate or what you do now, what would you like to do if you choose another profession?
Hmm. I don't know. To be honest, I'm sorry, I'm not good to respond. Each time change happened to me, it's
Yeah.
happened to me. It's not, it was quite rare that it came and saying, this is what I want to do.
Okay.
It's more, I don't know. So today of course, my initial response would be to do something similar or connected to what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I don't think we go back to city, maybe, I don't know, but I've already done it. So I think but of course, something related to the urbanism, the climate, and everything that could but I don't know. I'm also happy to be surprised and to maybe meet an opportunity
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
something a little bit different. I don't know.
Mm.
I really,
Yeah.
I'm very happy on with what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
So, and I feel I need very something that will be very appealing
Yeah.
for me
Yeah.
to.
But now, in your what is in your responsibility? Like, not only you're not only working projects, right? You have a team to manage.
Yeah, I have a team, brilliant,
How many?
mostly young. 15, I would say, 15 people,
Yeah.
and they are young, very Generation Z. They know what they want to be part of the change. They are, this is super interesting. I'm not so young anymore, but working with them is, the
Gives you
challenges
energy.
sometimes.
Yeah.
It's very positive.
Mm.
It's a very I learned a lot.
Yeah.
It's also take a lot of time, to be honest,
Mm.
to manage people well. A lot of time and thinking and
Yeah.
to do it well, so everyone is comfortable in his um,
Mm.
work life, and we can progress also on the objective we shared and everything. But it's very interesting, I think.
Yeah. I share the same experience with you, but I have seniors. Like I'm managing the urban planning at the company I work with, and my team are seniors. First, I thought they are all like urban planners and designers. Good, we are similar. But then when I started to interact with them, everyone have their own life and different way of communication. And like with this person, it's like this with this person. So it's more like this leadership approach. There is like no one solution fits all because
Yeah.
everyone is special and different.
And that's something also I should mention. There is something which is amazing and complicated at
Mm.
C40 is that in your team you can have people who are based in China, they are Chinese, or
Mm.
are based in Nairobi, they are from Kenya,
Yeah.
they are North America. So first you work a lot online, which is also making this type of
Yeah.
relationship not always easy and everything,
Mm.
but also there is cultural difference,
Mm.
and you need to, in your approach, in the way you speak to other, you way you understand. Uh, it's a lot of work to
Yeah.
make sure that you are not, you don't come with your culture and your
Uh, uh,
mindset. You are open and you understand what the person mean, because he's not going or she's not going to say it the way you will
no.
say it. And I learned a lot. I have to say I learned a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. But I think you gain a lot of also this like insight of other cultures when you travel to London, but also New York, right?
Yeah, I mean, first, yeah, definitely. It's not at all, even if it's, you could say, oh, it's all global north and everything, but there is a lot of different
Yeah.
approach and between a New Yorker and a Parisian. We don't, I don't think we think exactly the same. There is, I mean, I could give example, but I think it's important. And I think it's also helped me to be more open-minded. Sometimes you feel that the cultural approach of your country, the vision is what makes sense.
Yeah.
And of course, you have your own political belief and you have your own ideas, but at the same time, you are very, what in the context of where you grew up and your parents and everything, you are, you have a lot of bias. And I
Exactly.
think by experimenting other and by trying not to say no you're wrong but trying to understand
Yeah.
where it comes from, why the approach is so different, and the political and the cultural and the traditional background from this way of thinking, it's also helped you to be a little bit more balanced and to be a little bit more open to
Yeah.
others. And
Yeah.
more, it seems to be normal, but it's more complicated
Yeah.
than to say,
That's
to be
true.
honest.
That's very true. No, but like how to say, listening and trying to understand why, let's say, Mustafa thinks like this or Elaine thinks like this, and then slowly understanding the people, which helps
Exactly.
that you also communicate with them about what you believe and what is your idea and so on. Interesting. And before we move to the last section, last question, in the far future, let's say 100 years from now, what do you want people to say about you, to associate you with when they read your name or when they hear about your name? What do you want to leave?
I'm not sure they will read my name or they will hear about me, probably. And it's not a goal, to be honest, to be remembered. I think for me and myself, I I, I hope that I would have done a little difference. I would say I hope I would have done with my work a little difference and you know contribute to support the contribute to the improvement of and to accelerate the transformations that needs to be done to avoid some of the risk and that the humanity is facing. So I really believe, I hope as a human, I'm someone fair and someone good, with the people I'm working with the people I'm interacting with everyone. And I hope that I raise well my children, which is important. And that, I think this is not easy to to be a children today. A lot of compare like 50 years ago, there is a lot of our world is not very positive now. So they need to do their
Yeah.
own life and their own thing, but they need to be ready for it. So I hope I don't want to scare them. I don't want, you need to find the right balance, but I hope they are clever enough to navigate in
Yeah.
this world.
Yeah. So you love to be remembered as a good person that contributed to this sustainable transition for cities, but also raising good people.
That's a good summary.
Yeah. So the last three questions in this episode is about messages. You give messages. The first one is that you give a message to yourself.
Message to myself. Euh, Alors là, message to myself. There is a lot, but I don't know if I would be honest. Message to myself. I think I would say um, try to really identify what is important, and to sometimes we are going in all of the direction. There is priorities everywhere. Try to make sure that in key decision you think about what is fair, what is just, what is important, and not being polluted by small things that are less important, because every day come with these
Yeah.
small challenge and small difficulties, and but I think it's important to keep
Yeah.
the direction and to know what you want to be, which is related to your previous question.
Yeah. So focus on the goal.
On the goal a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. And a message to our students, like students now working, like how to say, studying for cities, planning, design, architecture. What is your message?
I think I really think that urban planner, uh, urban designer are one of the most powerful climate activists.
Mhm.
I really believe in it because you have this cross-sectoral approach of the city's transformation. Because we know that by by adopting a better urbanism, we can reduce emission by approximately 25%. That's what the IPCC reports say. Because you can do that in a way that is also creating more livable. So I really believe that their work is
Mm,
important, even if it's not directly related to
mm.
climate. So they are the doers,
Yeah.
and they are key climate activists. So I think the new generation is very aware.
Mm,
They know. I think in the choice you will make, think about how you make a difference. Think about what are the priority, what are, and go in this
mm.
direction. But yeah, and be open to the change. But we discussed that
Yeah.
before.
Great. And the last message is to our listeners.
Um, I hope this 1 hour and a little bit more with me was not too confusing, and
No.
I hope it helped you in some way to understand the change that needs to be done in cities, to understand your role and my role in this transformation. And I think it was pleasant as well. I
Mm,
hope it was pleasant as well. So
yeah. I really enjoy, usually, like how to say, because here I represent the listeners. So when it's a good flow, good information, good knowledge, I keep talking. And now you see like 1 hour and 30 minutes of talking. And I really enjoy the conversation. So Ellen, thank you so much for giving your valuable time, and keep up the good work.
yeah, thank you very much, Mustafa, for the invitation, and let's stay in touch.
Yeah. Yeah.